Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And now I would love to welcome Yvette Monique Gray. Yvette is the Regional Director General of Public Services and Procurement Pacific Canada. Yvette supports initiatives to increase buyer diversity for government contracts and assist underrepresented suppliers to participate in federal procurement. She also actively supports reconciliation with Indigenous peoples throughout procurement and project management work in the region. Yvette represents PSPC on the British Columbia Federal Council and is the co-champion of the BC Federal Black Employee Caucus. Please welcome Yvette Monique Gray.
Thank you for the warm introduction, Narissa. It's really wonderful to be presenting at another partner event with BBABC today, and good morning, everyone. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I'm in the heart of Vancouver and I'm connecting with you virtually from the traditional unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. It's my pleasure to begin our discussions on the Government of Canada's Supplier Diversity Action Plan. The session is part of an event curated in partnership with Procurement Assistance Canada, or PAC for short. You'll hear PAC a lot this morning, Public Services and Procurement Canada, or PSPC, and the Black Business Association of BC. BBABC and PAC began working together in late 2020. During the last 2 years, we've delivered monthly events to provide awareness sessions and education on how to sell your goods and services to the federal government. In February of this year, I was delighted that during Black History Month, we held a fireside chat on building bidder diversity, and I was also very pleased to be the panel moderator for that session. The panelists for that discussion came from Newfoundland, Ontario, and of course, we had a really strong BC presence. You'll hear more about that fireside chat later in the program. I'm really, really pleased with the results of it, and I think it generated excellent energy. I'm thrilled to be back with you all to discuss the Supplier Diversity Action Plan and the PAC services that are on offer, as well as the events here in BC and the Yukon. So I'll pass the virtual mic back over to Narissa, who will introduce the other two panelists who are with us here today. Narissa, back over to you.
Thank you, Yvette. Today, we're going to have a wonderful panel of guests, and we're going to be talking about government procurement and how the Black business community can be more involved in the supply chain. So with us today, we also have Mr. Clinton Lawrence White. Clinton is the Director General of Procurement Assistance Canada. He has been in this position since November 30th of 2020. Prior to this, Clinton was the Acting Director General of Procurement Business Management Sector, Procurement Branch, Public Services, and Procurement Services Canada, responsible for leading the provision of strategic and operational expertise and support to procurement operations. Clinton previously held the position of Senior Director, Business Integration and Liaison Directorate, Procurement Branch, Public Services, and Procurement Canada. We also have on the panel today Michelle Masco, who is the Executive Director in the Strategic Policy Sector of PSPC's Acquisitions Branch. Since 2006, Michelle has been building her career in Canadian federal procurement and has held increasingly senior positions in the field. Some of her professional achievements include leading key files related to construction around Parliament Hill, working on the joint support ship project of the Government of Canada's National Shipbuilding Strategy, as well as leading people management initiatives relating to procurement professionals within acquisitions program. And we will also introduce again Yvette Monique Gray, who will also be sitting on the panel this morning. Welcome, all of you. So I think what I would first like to do is begin the discussion with introducing Procurement Assistance Canada, as well as Public Service and Procurement Canada. If we can open the discussion up with talking about what are the differences between the two organizations and how do they work together?
So I'll kick that off. So Public Services and Procurement Canada is the Government of Canada's central purchaser. So in short, we buy things. The Government of Canada spends about $23 billion annually on procurement. So our role is to provide sort of like procurement services for other government departments. So if, for example, the Department of National Defense wants to buy a pencil, low example, they'll come to us and we'll do it on behalf of them. So we buy everything from soup to nuts to jets. Like we support them in that role. We are led by our minister, and who was recently mandated to increase government-wide initiatives to support sort of the inclusion of equity-deserving groups in federal procurement. So my role is to sort of help develop the policies that will enable our department to procure and to sort of increase representation in our federal supply chain. So I'll pass it over to Clinton, who can probably explain right now how Procurement Assistance Canada fits within the public services and procurement landscape.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for that, and welcome and thank you for the invitation. Just to note, I'm calling from Ottawa, the traditional land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe. So definitely happy to be here. In terms of Procurement Assistance Canada, some of you who've worked with this organization may know that in years past we used to be known as the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises. We recently changed our name to Procurement Assistance Canada. We wanted to better reflect the services that we provide to small business. In terms of our mandate, as mentioned by Michelle, we are a part of Public Services Procurement Canada. We are an organization that is based in across the country. Actually, we have offices in National Capital Region and all the regions, and our mandate essentially is to help small business understand and to connect with federal procurement opportunities. We've recently broadened our mandate along with our name change to have an increased focus on pursuing supplier diversity and enabling equity deserving groups to have a better chance at becoming involved in federal procurement. In terms of our organization, we have an external focus to what we do, and our external focus it really involves working with small medium businesses to demystify the federal procurement process, to provide education and awareness sessions around how to identify procurement opportunities, what you need to do to become registered to potentially do business with the federal government, and ultimately how to find and bid on opportunities. So we can certainly chat about it in a little bit more detail throughout the session, but at the end of the day, we do provide a lot of support to enable business to really become a part of it. Internally, we work with other federal departments to ensure that we're meeting their needs, as mentioned, because we are a common service provider in terms of procurement services to the Government of Canada. We also have teams that are working to keep abreast of best practices in the area of procurement and even supplier diversity at the provincial and federal and territorial level, and also with our international partners. I am responsible for the buy and sell website, which is currently the primary source online for finding out about federal opportunities, but we'll talk about later about how we're transitioning to a website called Canada Buys, which is going to be a really dynamic and exciting way to find opportunities. But lots to unpack during the session, but just to say, really excited to be here, and we'll have a chance to talk about federal procurement in more detail.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think to summarize for the audience, PAC, which is Procurement Assistance Canada, is more the operational branch of the organization, and that's who we deal with, and that's who our business members will be dealing with primarily most of the time in terms of that operational support. And whereas Michelle's side of the branch is policy development, and we also work with Michelle's side of the group as nonprofit organizations and as leaders of the Black community. We work with their group in terms of looking at policy and helping to ensure that policy that is written and created for Canadians is also inclusive of the Black community's needs. So I think I would love to delve a little bit deeper and talk about the Supplier Diversity Action Plan and how that's going to be created and rolled out to support entrepreneurs and getting more involvement from Black entrepreneurs in the bidding process and all entrepreneurs in the bidding process. And I'll open the floor up to anyone to answer that.
So I guess I'll start, Clinton. As I mentioned earlier, one of the big pieces of our minister's mandate is to continue to advance government-wide initiatives to increase the diversity of bidders on government contracts, including small businesses and businesses led by Indigenous peoples, Black and racialized Canadians, women, LGBTQ2 Canadians, and other underrepresented groups. So as part of that, we've been doing a lot of research recently. We've been really kind of looking into like what can be done in this space. And so, for example, from 2018 to 2020, we did an experimentation cycle. And we were kind of looking at how we can include socioeconomic measures in procurement. Recently, in 2021, we had the Black Businesses Procurement Pilot, and whereby we conditionally limited 12 contracts to Canadian businesses owned or led by Black individuals. And a lot of this experimentation and, our recent engagement through a request for information to Black businesses has given us a lot of really interesting feedback. Like, for example, we know that when we do procurements, we have to better engage with communities. We've learned that, a lot of businesses, when we did our RFI, a request for information, a lot of businesses haven't done business with the government of Canada. So there's a space there of, opportunities that are available. So we've done that research, and then from that and other engagements, we sort of came up with an action plan to help us create opportunities for various groups to to support access, as well as to sort of increase engagement. So those are kind of like, that's sort of what the Supplier Diversity Action Plan is hoping to touch on. And a piece of that is, of course, the engagement piece that Clinton's leading. But also kind of, making sure that we set up our policies for success. So making sure that we have, in May 2021, the department launched its policy and social procurement. And the policy and social procurement gave us sort of levers to have, targeted approaches within procurement to support various communities, as well as being able to collect data. So that was a really key first step in sort of giving us that framework to be able to move forward and do more from a policy perspective. And the work to be done is really sort of operationalizing that. Like, how do we take what we've learned from our engagement and our research and turn that into sort of like tangible bidding opportunities for various groups? So on that piece, in terms of the engagement as part of the action plan, I think, Clinton, do you want to talk a bit more about that piece?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Michelle. And as mentioned, the Supplier Diversity Action Plan was an excellent platform to really enable the federal government to really take a broad lens approach to how we're going to drive supplier diversity and how the federal government purchases goods. And on the engagement side, it actually provided quite a really practical way of how my organization, Procurement Assistance Canada, can have an impact. And I was quite involved in the Black pilots that Michelle had mentioned earlier, and it was really a good collaboration and a lot of lessons learned, things that worked well and things that we needed to reflect upon. But one of the parts where we saw the connection really taking place was about, okay, we've identified procurement opportunities. And when we're talking about procurement opportunities, we're talking about the client departments that we, PSPC, are working with. They decide that they want to buy a good or a service. And we had a certain number of these procurements identified within this pilot that we were looking at. And as mentioned, we limited these procurements only to businesses that were owned or led by Black businesses. So with our organization, we were able to look at the procurement opportunities that were on offer, and I understand that there were some that came out of the region. It came from across Canada. We would look at these opportunities. We would look within Procurement Assistance Canada, within our regional teams. We would look at the kind of partnerships that we had. So we do have an extensive list of partnerships, including partnerships with Narissa and her organization. And we would get the message out about these opportunities so that different Black business people that wanted to consider working with the federal government would know about them. Next part of it was finding out, and we did this. This is one of the learnings where we had quite a lot of success in some of the regions where we're able to get that advanced sense of the procurement opportunity, get out to that organization or partner organizations that could reach their membership. We would run, which is something with one of our fortes. It's the webinars, it's educational events to really talk about how do you actually procure, how do you actually bid on a federal procurement, because it's not intuitive, but it is actually, once you've gone through the sessions, it's actually, there's a bit of a system to it. But we did a lot of training with a lot of business leaders that had expertise in the areas that we were looking to buy goods and services. We had enough sessions getting them comfortable. These businesses then in turn competed for these procurements, and we had some good success, and it was really nice to see. So we were able to see sort of these businesses which were highly capable, clearly successful in their chosen areas, but then looking at federal procurement as an opportunity and just needing some support to kind of get a handle on what you need to do to actually go into these businesses. And they went through, of course, the review, the evaluation process as per any other procurement. But we think that the kind of support that our organization was able to provide gave them the kind of the tools and the building blocks and ultimately the confidence that was needed to get in there. So we took some learnings from that. One of the things, maybe we'll talk about it a bit later, is that we said, okay, well, there are some procurement, some businesses that have some exposure to procurement, but still need a little bit more in terms of help. And this isn't a service that we've actually introduced, and it's called the coaching service. So maybe we'll talk about it a bit later, but just to say that we really had a better understanding of what tools we think work to kind of help businesses get into federal procurement. But then there's a lot of lessons that I think we picked up on that we're going to continue to evolve. So I probably a super long answer, apologies for that, but really exciting topic.
Thank you, Clinton, and thank you, Michelle. And I just want to let everyone know, at the bottom of your screen on the right, there is a little chat icon. You can open that up and put questions in the chat anytime during the conversation. We will be leaving some time at the end of the discussion to answer questions from the audience. So now I would love to delve a little bit deeper. And, one of the things that Yvette spoke about in her introduction was the fact that the BBABC participated in a recent PSPC panel that was specific to procurement. And I talked about some of the barriers faced by Black entrepreneurs, and PSPC has also initiated various programs, such as the pilot that Clinton just mentioned, that was targeting the understanding and promoting more diversity within the procurement process. So maybe we can talk about some of the lessons learned from the work you've done, and what are the next steps, or what can we do to help to move the dial along in terms of helping to further the work you've done and support the work you've done going forward.
Maybe I'll start that one, Narissa, and then turn it over to Clinton and Michelle. So I'll just introduce the fireside chat we had. It was a bidder diversity roundtable, and it was for Black History Month. So it was very focused on Black businesses and how we can support Black businesses, particularly through the Supplier Diversity Action Plan. So we had, of course, Narissa Allen representing BBABC, and she was actually the first person we brought on board. And it was really some of my dialogue with Narissa that started that. We also had Cassandra Dorrington, who's the president and CEO of the Canadian Aboriginal and Minority Diversity Council, Dr. June Francis, who is right here in BC, who's a professor at Simon Fraser University, and also the director of the Institute for Diaspora Research and Engagement. And then we also had a representative who is from a business on the East Coast. So it was quite a range. And then, of course, Michelle and Clinton were there also representing PSPC. And as Narissa said, there was some key learning that came out of it. And what I liked about the session was a lot of it was very focused. It was very locally focused. So I think it was very relevant to business here in BC, some of which are large, but a lot of which are small, and just what are the challenges faced. And Narissa's experience and her work with this association was really key in bringing out some of those challenges. So maybe I'll turn it over to Clinton to talk a little bit more about lessons learned I'll leave it there. But thank you again, Nerissa, for participating in that. I feel like it really launched the BC voice in these discussions.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. And it was quite an exciting panel to engage on. It was good to really, be in the presence of, solid leaders like yourself, Yvette, and some of the others. So really, quite enjoyed it. In terms of some lessons learned, but yeah, we did have quite a number of them. One is that we did realize at the outset around the Black pilots that we didn't have as broad a reach into the Black business community as we needed to have. That was a bit of a function of just not having the capacity. Just up until recently, Procurement Assistance Canada teams were relatively small across the regions, trying to do mighty work, really getting out there, but still just didn't have the capacity to really start to get deeper into some of the key communities that we wanted to work with. But it was a priority, and once you set up a priority for an organization, that does enable you to kind of target your resources. So we were able to have some success there. But with budget 2021, our department PSPC did receive a pretty significant infusion of funding to get more capacity. Not related to the topic, but when you look at some of the work related in terms of bringing in the PPE and the vaccines to help us respond to the pandemic. And Michelle, I should note, was really unsung as part of that. She has her stamp on quite a number of procurements that no doubt have saved lives. So thanks to Michelle. But in the context of that additional capacity, I was able to grow the Procurement Assistance Canada capacity, both in the BC region and across the country. So now we do have the boots on the ground, and now I think we're starting to make really good inroads in the Black business community, both in BC and around the country. I know that we've had great support from Nerissa, and we're just trying to sort of build off of that sort of connection to get more in. So as we get that diversity, as we're going to start to have different types of procurements, we want to really know where the different pockets of expertise within the Black business community exist. And then we're going to really want to make sure we work with them, making sure that they have the confidence to go after federal procurements and get that contract. I think, I don't know, Michelle, did you want to jump in?
I'm struggling with the mute button. No, that was actually, both of you covered like a lot of really big pieces for that. And I think, we do have a very big mandate. But I think what's sort of really phenomenal at this point in time is the fact that like all pieces of the department are working very cohesively to advance and make sure that we are moving forward and that we will support it. So, on the one hand, we have the policy piece, making sure, the fundamentals are there to happen. To enable sort of officers to do what needs to be done when they're sort of putting the procurements out and there's proper coverage, and that we're aligned with our legal obligations in terms of how we approach procurement. But we've also put in place those supports to make sure that like businesses are not coming in like brand new and confused sort of, into sort of this, what's a pretty, relatively complex landscape. And then, from Yvette's perspective, like, on the ground, you have like leaders, for example, like Yvette in like Pacific region, who are really working to make sure that what's happening in their space is going to advance and support like our minister's mandate. So it really is like a very comprehensive approach for the entire department to advance supplier diversity. And it's actually, having been in procurement for a really long time, like this is a really transformational time for PSPC, that we really are, supplier focused and making sure all the building blocks are there to lay a really solid framework for real solid change to to support businesses and to help them grow, create economic opportunity, because we know procurement's a really significant lever to support sort of just communities all across Canada. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It's oh, I'm sorry. Continue. You're gonna add something?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry, Nerissa. I was just Michelle had sort of tweaked me to a really good point. I was just sort of in the top of my head, but I think I mentioned a bit earlier that part of the learnings. So as mentioned, we have a lot of webinars and different services, and we'll see about getting some of the links up here so that folks can access them. But one of the things that we did find is that, as mentioned, there is a sort of a number of businesses that have had some exposure to federal procurement, but perhaps haven't been as successful as they wanted. But they do understand the basics, but just how to get to that next step. And with that learning, we did a pilot project last year, partnering with the Women Business Initiative, and we had a very intersectional group of participants, including a black woman and representation from the Indigenous community and other elements of intersectionality. Really good group of experienced business leaders. Gave them focused coaching to really kind of dig a little bit deeper into what their experience with procurement was, what worked and what didn't, and then kind of launched them. So we had a lot of good feedback from that pilot, and we ended up now moving it into an actual service offering of Procurement Assistance Canada. So we do have this coaching service available, and it's really targeted towards individuals from underrepresented groups. So talking today with the Black business community, you would absolutely be eligible if you're someone that has had some experience with the federal procurement process. I'd encourage you to sign up and see if this is something that would be of interest to you. Because at the end of the day, we want people to understand federal procurement should be considered as a viable part of your business plan to go forward, and we just want to be there to help you succeed. So sorry for the interruption, Iris. I just wanted to add that point.
No, you actually took the words right out of my mouth. We believe strongly that procurement should be a part of every business's strategy of growth. And for the Black community, we haven't capitalized on that very much at all in the past. So that's one of the reasons why we've been so vocal and so intentional about partnering with Procurement Assistance Canada, putting on workshops, trying to find ways to get the awareness out there first, so that the business owners can understand, how they can integrate this type of income stream into their business, how they can perform the bids if they've never ever even seen like the Canada Buys website, because it can seem intimidating because there's so much information. So what we've been trying to do is just amalgamate that, break it down into pieces that are digestible for everyone to understand the steps from A to B. And then we want to get more businesses actually active in the bidding process. And one of the things that were really intriguing was the coaching service. And I have a question about that, because you mentioned that it would be strong for those who are already familiar with the bidding process. But for those who are brand new, this is the first time they're hearing about Procurement Assistance Canada, and they want to start to understand this as well. Is there a place for them in that coaching service, or is that more first for them to get involved with our association and participating in the workshop that we give, such as the Mythbusters and those foundational pieces first before they move into the coaching service? Like, what does that look like for an entrepreneur who's just starting out and just becoming aware of this access point?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Narissa. You really hit the nail on the head. We were talking about the coaching service, the way it's kind of built, it is assuming that the business leader has a certain level of familiarity with federal procurement. So it's taking that sort of existing knowledge base and really doing a lot of refinements. Like in an athletic context, it'd be like someone who's already a pretty good athlete and getting a trainer, but they already have a sort of a baseline. But sort of speaking to what you said, we do prefer, and we think it's actually ultimately in the best interest of the business, that if you're just starting out, there's a lot of foundational pieces, and those are the ones that you were talking about that I think, Narissa, that you're working with Procurement Assistance Canada to have delivered. But there are these foundational pieces that really just, what is the federal procurement world look like? Like, what's involved? What are we procure? Like, really dealing with the basics. Also getting into, like, where do I find these opportunities? Like, we hear about them, but where are they? We talk about buy and sell as the website. We talk about Canada Buys. Where is it? And then we talk about, like the actual things like getting your security clearances, which is, for example, kind of technical but important part of the process. So we help you get really bid ready, and that's a lot of the basics. We call it taking you on a procurement journey, and we think that at the beginning stages, the kinds of products that we deliver working with you, Narissa, and other ways, I think those ones are better suited. And once someone's cut their teeth on procurement opportunities, and hopefully in a perfect world you have success and you get a contract and we're off. But if you don't, and we want to sort of dig deep, and what can we do to make sure that your next and future opportunities are much more successful, that's where the coaches that we have are really designed to take you there. So I would encourage folks to really check into it, and I'll see about if I can figure out the technology how to get these links into the chat.
I'd also like to add a couple of things too to what Clinton's saying that I found interesting. I haven't had as long a career in PSPC as Clinton and Michelle have. My experience was more on the border side. So I found it interesting because my current portfolio includes the major projects, all of the government infrastructure in BC and the Yukon. And what I'm also seeing is there's a need for technical expertise, so consultants. So I think when we think about businesses, we often think about bricks and mortar businesses or online businesses, but we actually hire a lot of different types of consultants and experts in the government. And in my perfect world, we would be in a place where we'd actually be able to say, this is where we have a shortage of experts, of technical experts. And we actually have, students coming up who are from the Black community, students coming up, they're engineers, and they know that there's a lot of work in this area, or we know that there's an emerging sector, and they can position themselves for that, or someone who's mid-career. But I think there are a lot of opportunities. So in my perfect ecosystem that Clinton was describing, we'd even have people like 2-3 years out knowing that there's going to be a need in 2 or 3 years, because everybody is aware of the current supply chain issues. But those supply chain issues also apply to certain pieces of expertise and on the labor side as well. So I think that it's really ripe with opportunities, but we tend to think of infrastructure. But the government hires a lot of consultants, a lot of experts, and we really rely on them in all kinds of things, from shipbuilding to projects, marine biology projects. So there's a lot in there. And one thing I would also add is that the coaching is free. I'm not sure if we've really emphasized that, but it's free. How many things are free these days? So I think that's why we really want to have people in the community take advantage of it.
If I could just add one thing, like I know, I said before, we buy everything from like soup to jets and everything in between. But currently, we have our two websites, like Buy and Sell and Canada Buys. And, I would say for people to, take a look at sort of what you've bought historically. You'd probably be surprised if you kind of go through and look at like the various things we've bought from, like, cars, experts who can do like just about anything, like just, you name it, it's there. And a lot of people probably are saying to themselves, I don't know if I can see my business in there, but if you go and you search, like, have we bought that in the past? Chances are we probably have. And Procurement Assistance Canada really kind of walks people through a lot of that there on the Buy and Sell website. But that history of what we've bought in the past is a really good indicator of what we'll buy in the future, because, we are like, it's just, we're predictable. So that's one of those areas if people are kind of wondering if they can see themselves in federal procurement, if they can see, what they do there. It really is a fantastic website to kind of say what we've done in the past and get an idea of, the timelines for how things sort of keep coming up over and over again. So those are the kind of things that Procurement Assistant Canada, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of support people to understand sort of how to look for opportunities. And when looking for opportunities, not just sort of forward looking, but looking at the past as well. Because our past behaviors are a very fantastic predictor of our future behavior as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think what's really important, because a lot of our business owners are service providers. So Yvette, when you spoke to the point about consultants and the sectors of our industry that provide business services, it's really important for them to hear that, because it's not just physical products that the government buys, it's services. And we have a lot of service providers. So I hope everyone's listening, and, even after this presentation, please go and check out the Procurement Assistance Canada virtual booth that we have in the exhibition hall, because you can speak to experts there about your product and service and see how that might be something, pitch yourself to them. Ask them questions about how you can get involved. Ask them questions about training and what they have upcoming, and let them know where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, and they can let you know what best products would be suited for you, including the coaching service. So time is flying by, which is fantastic because we're having a really great conversation, and I see there's quite a few comments and questions in the chat as well as in the Q&A. So I think what I'm going to do is jump into a question or two, and then we can come back to conversation and we'll go back and forth. So let's Q&A. I'm going to post this one from Clavia. Do you need to be incorporated, or can you be a sole proprietor to access these contracts? I'll leave it to anyone to respond to that question.
Well, I guess I'll keep it simple. You just have to have a business. So whether you're a sole proprietorship, you're incorporated, you're anything, you just kind of need to have a business. And so I think, what we kind of focus on is, like what's the service that you provide, the goods or service that you provide. So as long as you're a business, I don't want to limit to Canadian business, but as long as you're a business, that's what's really important. So you could have, I think it was answered in the chat as well, whether you have sort of like 1 employee, 1,000 employees, 2 employees, that sort of, it depends. Every requirement's different, but just have a business. I don't know if you kind of want to get anything more specific on that one, Clinton.
No, I think you hit it exactly. It's basically being a business. A lot of it's determined by the requirements, so not a one size fits all, but yeah, it's just business in general. And as mentioned before, the mandate of our organization, Procurement Assistance Canada, is really to help small business. So we understand that small medium business is really a critical part of our group of folks that we want to connect with the federal government.
I think we define small businesses as having 1 employee, which is yourself, up to 499. So definitely we see a lot on the 1 range and a lot on the closer to the 499 range. So it's everywhere in between.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. This question was asked and it was answered by someone from PAC, but I just wanted, I think it's something that other people will be asking, so I wanted to post this question. It's from Sabrina Rock. We have guidelines on applying as small business and including preparing for the bids. And this is just instructional information. So I know a lot of people are going to want that kind of information. Carter Bobby, who is a representative from PAC, responded to Sabrina and basically head over to the procurement assistance booth. During the day, they've got networking sessions, and they'll best be able to help you based on talking to you, finding out about your business, where you are in your journey, and provide you with the best answer to the information that's going to be most pertinent to you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just add as well too that I wasn't sure if the question was trying to get broader beyond procurement, but certainly as you mentioned, in terms of Procurement Assistance Canada, helping you to understand what you need to sort of be comfortable to go into procurements, they would be the place to go. Our folks can also help connect you to other programs as well. Even though we won't deliver them, there are quite a number of programs that are coming from other departments that are focused on the Black business community, which is fantastic. And so they can also, help point folks in a direction in terms of other needs that are beyond procurement.
And please, if we can email that information out as well. So if you don't have a lot of time to stop at the virtual booth, if you can just go through Narissa, she has a great connection to us. She's got the hotline, and we can email the information to you or point you to the information on our website.
Perfect, thank you. Another question here from Pardon. Where can we sign up for training to do procurement with the federal government? So I'm going to kick this off and then I'll open it up. We have a partnership with PAC, and we have usually monthly sessions, and they range from broader range, just understanding what the government buys, all the way to workshops that are hands-on that help you register as a vendor on their portal and look for bids and understanding how to apply for those. So please check out our events page to find those sessions that we have monthly. But I also want to pass it on to the panel for your input on that question. Where do they go for training? And coaching is. I'm not sure if this question was asked before the coaching piece, but I'm going to throw it back up there for your input again.
Yeah, thanks. I would just echo what you said, Narissa, that like through the partnerships that you're having with Procurement Assistance Canada, that's a great place to get those really foundational training sessions. So it's just a click away. So I'd encourage you to connect with Narissa or with some of the booths that are available, and let's start the journey.
Maybe I'll add to that, just that as you can tell, there's a really strong partnership between PAC Pacific and BBABC, to the point where I'm pretty sure Narissa knows more about the programs delivered by PAC than I do. So Narissa's very knowledgeable, but she has great access. But I also want to just put out there that at 10, there's also a presentation on the IDEAS program, which is the Innovation for Defense Excellence and Security. And it's an innovation accelerator for new products and services. So again, back to the service providers we were talking about and the subject matter experts. And that's all within the defense innovation ecosystem. So when I talk about actually being able to forecast what is going to be needed, where we're going to be looking for supply or are now, that IDEAS program is a perfect place for that. So that's at 10 within the virtual trade show today.
Fantastic. Thanks, Yvette. There is a question here. What supports do the BBABC offer for entrepreneurs who are interested in pursuing federal procurement contracts? So similar to what we've been saying, we have the workshops. We are going to be rolling out a procurement program in the next month. So you can sign up for that at our virtual booth in the exhibition hall. So please go ahead and check that out as well. So we also have a designated staff member and an advisor that supports specifically on procurement and getting our businesses where they need to be in terms of being able to apply. So whether you're new and we have to start from building the awareness and for you to understand the processes, looking at where you are in your business and looking at your inventory and being able to supply contracts of larger scale, looking at whether you should be, whether you're working right now as a subcontractor and you want to move to being a contractor, all those kinds of strategies are what we look at and support the entrepreneurs in developing through our association. So please check out our virtual booth as well and get some support and leave your contact in that booth with our members. I think we covered all. I'm just going to do a brief scan through it again. In the interim, I would love to open it up. If you have any parting words, anything you would like to mention or add on to the discussion of what we've been talking about, we've got about 2 minutes.
And go. I'll just maybe I'll add a couple of things. One, associations like BBABC are amazing for amplifying voices. So please tell Narissa, tell the BBABC what might be missing, because Narissa has a direct contact and she's able to bring that information to us. The other is just when we talk about that IDEAS booth at 10, it's also about solving a challenge. It talks about getting funding for research, getting feedback on technology, and building your network. So it's quite broad. And the last thing I'll say is that we really like the partnership, and we're hoping that this year our goal for the Pacific region is to interact with 7,500 businesses through awareness, education, and assistance events. So we would like your business to be one of those. Thanks. Over to you, Clinton.
Yeah, thanks. I would just say it's been a great opportunity connecting with all of you. I've been in the procurement space not as long as Michelle, but I've seen quite a number of procurements, large dollar, and I would really like to see Black businesses really jump in and get a piece of this action. So just happy to see this kind of collaboration with Narissa, and wish you the best of luck as you start your procurement journey.
And I guess just to close off, one thank you, Nerissa, for the opportunity to kind of be here. This is, it's really fantastic to kind of engage with businesses and see their concerns. And what I would say to people is, like from that policy lens, as you sort of go and try procurement and engage, and when you sort of share your experience, I think the more that we know with how it was, how it's going, the more that kind of my team knows in terms of how to address and how to shift policies. And so I think it's really important to sort of maintain that relationship with the BBABC, as well as Procurement Business Canada, because they're kind of that inroad in terms of like giving me feedback to help you. So I think I look forward to kind of seeing a lot more Black businesses participate in federal procurement. And please do continue to let us know, like good and bad, how it's working out. 'Cause I think, that continued feedback is helpful for us to kind of make it a better experience for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I really want to thank our panel, Yvette, Clinton, and Michelle, for spending time with us today and providing this valuable information. I really want to encourage everyone to go out and check out the PAC booth in the exhibition hall. We've got some time now. Once this webinar closes off, you will have the links, and it'll send you directly to our networking lounge, to the agenda, where you can either join the networking lounge, where there'll be conversations, B2B conversations, procurement conversations, as well as conversations around our new microloan program. Also, please check out the exhibition booths. We have a various number of booths there, and there are points to be had if you leave your contact in each of those booths. So please go ahead, check those out, be engaging, get all the information you can, take advantage of the day, because we've curated what we think is, going to be really, really impactful and really useful for you. So leave us feedback as well. Let us know what you think throughout the day. If you have any other questions, you can either, if they're specific to PAC, you can either leave them in the PAC booth and consult with one of the representatives there. If you just want more information on how to go forward, please feel free to contact the BBABC. So I want to thank you to everyone that joined today, and to the audience members that participated and asked all the engaging questions. We appreciate those. And thank you to our panelists once again. So please enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the trade show. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.